Hi everyone, Justin D. Jenkins here, managing editor of The Quintessential Gentleman. I'm here with Stephen Love, the producer of Cloned Tyrone down in Miami Beach for ABFF 2023. How you doing, Stephen?
Doing well. How you doing?
Doing good, doing good. I know you're excited to be showing this movie to audience. How has the reception been so far?
I mean, so far the streets say it's fire. So
say
that's all I need, man. That's all I need. That's all that matters, really.
Exactly. Now I know this story was inspired by the co-writer and director Jewel Taylor. Friend got arrested in college.
Yeah.
From there, it kind of took off. What was the inspiration behind that story? Why you got involved?
Yeah. Well, the inspiration behind that story was exactly that. It was one of his friends who was on a kind of great trajectory and as an athlete, etc. And then something happened, and he ended up getting disgraced by his school and sent away and kind of fell into a deep depression. But it was, as Joel calls it, at the same time as all the conspiracy theorists are rising on YouTube, right? And so in that wormhole, and he started to think about what it meant for his friend and how to kind of reconcile the fact that his friend had a hard time getting out of that, and all the things that his friend started to kind of say, right? Like, the man has it out for me and all that stuff, right? And so he's like, I want to explore that in a movie, try to unpack his feelings and my feelings around it in a movie. What got me attached to it wasn't even that story, though. It was just Joel as a really close friend and classmate at USC for grad school. And he said to me, basically, I got a movie I want to do about 3 people in the hood and realize the government's doing experiments on the neighborhood and have been forever. Yeah. And then we got to peel the onion back. And I was like, okay, what's the rest of the movie? He's like, that's all I got. I was like, that's enough for me. He's like, what's the name of it? They Cloned Tyrone. I was like, if it's about socks in the laundromat and it's called They Cloned Tyrone, I can still sell it. You know what I mean? So we just locked arms, man, that day. That was fall 2017.
Wow.
And then 6 months later we pitch it and bidding war ensues and sell it to Macro and the rest is history.
That's amazing. Talking about Macro, why was that the perfect place to sell?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's interesting. Like, at that time, Joel had not directed a movie yet. When we sold the movie initially, it was Joel's first time as a featured director, but he and Tony had written a bunch of big movies for studios, and so every studio in town, when they heard about the pitch, they all were bidding on it and wanted it and whatnot. And we ultimately decided to sell it to Macro because of the relationship with Charles. Charles' first movie as a financier at Macro was also my first movie as a producer, The Land, back in the day. Okay. Stephen Cable Jr.'s movie, Officer Cable, he's doing Transformers right now. But at the time, Charles just basically said, I'm not going to try to compete financially with the studios because we're still a smaller studio up and coming, right, as Macro. But we'll give y'all creative control pretty much and let you really create the movie you want to make. So that was more important to us than anything else.
That's amazing that you even have someone to even do that in the creative field.
Yeah.
Now, would you consider yourself a conspiracy theorist?
I don't think so. I think there's a lot of, but I'm not necessarily a conspiracy theorist, but I definitely am tapped in to, the knowledge that might not be mainstream, right? So things that are absolutely true that get labeled as a conspiracy, but no, it's right, it's written, there's facts, there's court cases, there's government files, all those things that tell us what's real and what's not.
Awesome. Now, can you speak about what it was like working with Jamie Foxx?
Yeah. I mean, Jamie Foxx is a legend, and we all know that, but to be honest, there's some people that you meet that have been proclaimed as legends, right? And then you actually work with them or meet them, and you're like, I don't quite get how you became a quote-unquote legend. Like, are you really that talented, right? But Jamie Foxx is the absolute opposite of that. When you meet that dude, you're like, I get it. Like, dude he's a comedian, obviously, he sings. Yeah. He's a great producing partner for us too. Like, he just sees the world of filmmaking and storytelling and the audience in a different way because he's been at it so long, so he just intimately understands the audience. And he's still so in touch, even without, with being in the business for so long. You would assume that maybe he lost connection to the audience, but he hasn't at all.
Still good, yeah. And you guys are doing this sci-fi film. Can you talk about the kind of obstacles you had with trying to convince that there is a black audience for a film like this?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, there is no comparable film on paper for They Cloned Tyrone, right? And so because of that, it means that when you're pitching it, trying to sell the movie, etc., studios, as much as they might like us or like the story, they got to figure out how to make money, right? And I get that, but at the same time, there's a reason that there's no comp, there's no comparable film. It's because we haven't had opportunity yet, right? So making a black sci-fi on this scale, right, with the same sort of opportunity as a movie that's not starring black people, was something we really fought for, and something that Netflix thankfully supported ultimately, because I think we delivered something that hopefully will become the comp for other people.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I know music played a big part of the story.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that playlist that I heard about? You kind of they wrote the movie to a playlist and the music behind the film?
Yeah. So funny story is Joel and Tony write to playlists. They make Spotify playlists before they put pen to page, right? But that same playlist is something that we use when we were pitching the movie. So we pitched the movie to people around town, and people started hearing about it. They kept hearing like it felt like you were watching the movie, and what people didn't realize the reason why. So we had a playlist that we would queue up every time a certain point of the story would happen, right in the pitch. But music ultimately, that's all translated down to the movie. The same way the movie is anachronistic, the music is too. So there's songs in the movie that are from the 70s and 80s, but there's songs, there's trap music in there from modern day, also. And we started blending all these different things, like Parliament, George Clinton, Parliament, Funkadelic kind of vibe. Like, what does all that look like if you mix it with trap music? Yeah. And so I randomly started calling it Cosmic Trap. Okay. Because it's this thing that just feels like it's out of space, but it's still got the beat, the 808s of what we're used to today on radio.
That's awesome. Something I learned is you're from South Carolina.
Yeah.
What part are you from South Carolina?
Yeah, so I grew up on a beach farm in South Carolina, in York, South Carolina. Okay. And then went to high school in Bennettsville, South Carolina.
Okay, my family's from like 30 minutes outside of Savannah. Like
okay,
Hampton, Hardyville.
Yeah. Right on.
How has growing up in I know those are like backwoods country, dirt roads. Yeah. How growing up influenced your filmmaking, your creativity?
I mean, when you grow up on a farm as an only child at that, you have nothing but your imagination.
Your pet,
right? So and my granddad is an absolute storyteller. He's always been sort of a modern day griot, right, in the African tradition in that way, but it's been passed down so long that he just naturally is a storyteller, right? And my dad's a pastor, my mom's a teacher. They're both storytellers in their own way, right? So for me, it was always like story is centered of everything. Even if I wasn't doing movies, I'd be telling stories in some way, right? And so I think ultimately growing up in that environment is what drew me to want to make movies. That and the fact that the closest movie theater was an hour away. So there was no, the movies became really special for me, right? Because every time we, packed up our snacks and went into town, like we're on Little House on the Prairie, like the black version. It was like a special moment for us to go into the town and go to the theater, So it held it in such esteem that it made me want to know more about it. And then that town where I went to high school had a program that taught us how to use little handy cams and how to upload it to iMovie and edit. Who knew that a small town had a program like that? There was one teacher named Don Patterson who really just loved making videos. And so I got the bug doing that, and then I found a way to make money doing that because I've always been a hustler, So I figured out how to make money doing that because of weddings and plays and church stuff, whatever. And then it just kind of stuck. Yeah,
it's so interesting that because people take for granted, right? The stories, like you said, your grandfather told on the porch, and you don't realize sometimes, like, we do have so many storytellers, especially in our community, of like they can speak for days and they tell the same story, but it always hits different when they tell the story. So it's good that you were able to kind of capture that and obviously make a great career of it. Now, your production company, Made with Love. Can you talk about the mission and what you want to do in Hollywood?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the short of it is, Made with Love is meant to shake it up. I mean, we're it's obviously the name it implies that everything is done with care, and that's the case for sure. Tyrone is sort of a signature project of the kind of things that I'm drawn to, in that everything we're doing on our slate, whether it be comedy or horror or action or sci-fi or prestige movies, true stories, they're all connected by the idea that you can give sugar with medicine, right? So if we're gonna explore societal ills or social issues or even just a life lesson, a nugget of wisdom at the core of it, but it's heavily draped in entertainment so that you can just enjoy it and not have to work when you go to the theater, right? And that's really it. And so a part of Made with Love Media, the overall, outside of film and TV that we're doing, there's another part of our company called the Invisible Collective that is all advertising. So in between, when I started in independent movies, and in between those movies, I would do commercials and music videos, and ended up winning an Emmy in that space, and ended up winning Cannes Lions in that space as well, and so Clio's and all that stuff, and it was amazing. I didn't know anything about any of those awards. I just thought, like, I'm just doing commercials so that I can make some money and hopefully tell some good stories in the meantime and meet dope filmmakers. And it turned into a real business for me, right? So I ultimately partnered with a couple people. We started Invisible Collective, and our whole roster is it looks like the world, right? It's called Invisible because it's all the directors who are frankly invisible in that space. So if we think film and TV has a lot of progress to make, advertising at least 10 years behind us when it comes to representation of directors. So our entire roster is, people of color, women, LGBT plus, military vets, differently able folks, and they're all dope. They're all dope. And so the idea is to help build them there, and then when they're ready to make a movie, come over to the film and TV side, we'll make a movie.
Nice. Create impact, which is
That's
amazing
it.
to
That's
do.
it.
Now, can you talk about what you want the audience to take away after they watch They Cloned Tyrone?
Yeah. I honestly just want the audience to take away a lot of questions. I don't really want to, Joel was really intentional, our director and his co-writer, Tony. They were really intentional about not saying a specific thing and leading you in a specific direction, right? We want to just create debate. And it's going to be some debate after this joint, right? Like there's a lot of things in there that are presented as conspiracies that those who know there's not. Yeah. There's a lot of things in there, presented as conspiracies that are absolutely ridiculous, and they're a conspiracy, right? But I really hope that it just sparks conversation, and that ultimately, that the industry takes away that you can make art and be original and not have to be based on IP, not have to be based on, some remaking a movie for the 20th time, right? You can just have a dope story from a new voice and have it and give it real resources if you believe in them and put a great team around them, they can actually succeed. Yeah. That's what I hope the industry takes away. As far as the audience, I hope they take away that they want more of that, right? And that they should be asking for stuff like that, so that people like me can help bring them more. Yeah.
There's also, when we speak about new voices and we see all the stories coming out of Hollywood, and you got the strikes and everything happening. And as an up and coming filmmaker, you have such a big movie right now. What advice would you give to just aspiring filmmakers to kind of stay encouraged, even seeing all the things that's happening that might kind of discourage them or deter them from the industry?
Yeah, for sure. Honestly, speaking of my grandfather who always had a story to tell, he also always was like immaculate with random quotes, right? That you just needed at the right time. And the one that comes to mind right now is, no matter what you do, somebody gonna kick, right? And all it means is, no matter what, somebody gonna have something to say. There's gonna be some pushback. There's gonna be some obstacle. There's gonna be something that is sort of digging at your ego or digging at your prowess to go after your dream, etc. So you might as well do the thing that you want to do instead of trying to shape it to what everybody else is doing or what everybody else is sort of steering you toward, right? As long as you got God and you know exactly where you want to go. And so for me, if I was a new filmmaker and trying to get into the business and I see the chaos that's happening, I would say swim in the blind spots, because there's opportunity in chaos always, right? And that's what we try to do too as a team of filmmakers, business, Joel, myself, or Capel, etc. Our whole cohort is about finding the pockets where Hollywood is sort of not paying attention, right? Or they're just like completely not seeing the opportunity and just creating. And we create what we want to create. And then hope that they say, we want that. We want to bring that in. And if they don't, that's cool too. We still make something we think is dope.
Still create that.
Yeah, just make it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, well, Stephen Love, They Cloned Tyrone.
Yeah.
So excited to talk to you.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
It was
sir.
great. Yep.
Yes,
all right, everyone.
Appreciate it.
Make sure you check out the movie coming out
July 14th in theaters and July 21st on Netflix.
There we go. All right. Thank you, guys.